Welcome to Federal Modernization Space, sponsored by KPMG and MFGS Inc. With the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network, I'm Mimi Geerges. Military and security operations today would not be possible without our forces in the space domain. To maintain superiority in this contested environment, the military space community must anticipate and execute operations faster than our adversaries. In this program, we'll look at how the U.S. Space Force is realizing this vision by transforming the enterprise and leveraging data and artificial intelligence to stay ahead. In the first half of the program, we'll explore how the Space Force is using digital transformation tools and processes to recruit elite warfighters and realize mission success. Joining me now is Major General John Olson, Mobilization Assistant to the Chief of Space Operations for the U.S. Space Force and Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer for the Department of the Air Force, and Joe Klimavicz, Managing Director leading the CIO Advisory Practice at KPMG. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
General Olson, I want to start with you. How do you define digital transformation, and how is the Space Force leading in that effort?
Well, digital transformation in general is an organizational and a cultural effort to leverage technology, and that includes enterprise IT and data and artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's bringing all that together in an applied integrated fashion, and that does also include the people focus, training and all the development necessary. And so it's focusing on outcomes for the mission, and for the Space Force in particular, it's absolutely paramount to what we're doing. As we were the first service born digital, it's really an awesome opportunity to leverage both a digital headquarters, digital operations, digital workforce, and a digital engineering ecosystem. Those are the four big tenets that we're driving forth.
And Joe, you've worked in many agencies in the government. You're now in private industry. What needs to happen at the enterprise level to enable the digital warfighter?
I think the biggest thing is you have to connect the mission, the business side, all the different aspects that General Olson was talking about. You need to make sure that you have executive support. We do an annual KPMG Harvey Nash survey, biggest in the world. And one of the things that always comes across there, digital transformations fail because you don't have that executive support. You don't have the buy-in of the engagement with the workforce. And that has to extend out to the mission and to the business side.
And General, you mentioned that it's a digital-first agency. It's a new service. What happens with the legacy systems? Do you have legacy systems, or can you just start from scratch?
Well, it absolutely does. Of course, we do have some legacy systems coming in from the Air Force Space Command. We've had a rich and robust contribution not only to our economy and national security for many decades, but it is a golden opportunity for us as the first service born digital. We are, coming up on our third birthday here as we celebrate the 20th of December 2019 when the Space Force started. But as we look at that going forward, this gives us an opportunity to drive a very vigorous path forward focused on the new resilient and effective architectures that are going to be absolutely essential to everything that we do in space, because it is now much more contested. And so this is going to be the focus, kind of our North Star vision, as the Chief of Space Operations leads us forward in that new environment. Again, we get to build fresh rather than remodeling quite so much old, but we are bringing also a lot of the other services capabilities into bear. So now we've integrated it all in the single focal point of the Space Force. So we're really excited about that future and driving vigorously forward towards it.
So Joe, what do you think the advantages are for Space Force being such a new service when it comes to digital transformation?
Well, if you look at the federal government spends typically about $100 billion a year on IT, and 80% of that goes to just keeping the lights on. And that installed base, it makes it hard to transition into new, modern digital systems. So you've got to always work in two different domains, the legacy and the modern. Digital Space Force doesn't have to really worry so much about the legacy as you build out the new. You got to build the new correctly with modern technology, though.
So how does, General, digital transformation of the Space Force ultimately enhance the mission? Because that's really what we need to talk about, right? I mean, how does it enhance the efficiency in the department?
Well, it's absolutely the core. It is critical. When we came out with a vision for a digital service in May of 2021, that really highlighted how intrinsically important this is to the overall service, the overall outcomes, because it's not just in space serving the Space Force elements. It's also driving value and supporting all the other services and our partners and allies across the multi-domain, all-domain spectrum. So it's core to everything that we do, and you know there is a critical continuity from some of those legacy systems, but at the same time, we have to rapidly adapt and drive towards the future. That's paramount. We know that in a contested environment and the global challenges that we face from our peer competitors and adversaries around the globe, we know that they've focused on the future, and they've been looking where we're strong and looking for asymmetric vulnerabilities there. So we've been really putting together some prudent plans, but speed is you know, the need of speed here is high, and so it's about being smart, it's about being integrated, it's about having open systems architectures, and underpinning all those is a robust enterprise IT. Then, of course, we have to have a DevSecOps approach. You know, security can't be bolted on at the end. It's fundamentally important to be driving that in from the beginning, and then it's about moving forward and leveraging the potency of our diverse and creative and innovative industrial base in this arena. I think the United States is a world leader. We need to harness that in a whole of government, whole of nation approach.
So what about return on investment? Because you've spent parts of your career in public service and in private industry. Should the department be focused on return on investment like the private industry does?
The answer is absolutely yes. I think it's different. There, you know, one is profit driven, and one is cost avoidance driven and mission driven. But I think that fact can be easily worked. In fact, my primary mission in coming back to full-time active duty for this period, and I'll go back to part-time duty here at the end of December, is to really imbue the Department of Defense and the Space Force and the Air Force and our Department of the Air Force with that, you know, with the business knowledge and practices, knowing what EBITDA is, knowing what the core drivers are. But when we look at that value proposition, much like a company has to have that quarterly, the quarterly performance, I think driving to that cadence of performance-oriented outcomes is going to be really helpful. And I think as we look at the leadership both of the Department of Defense and the Department of the Air Force, we're trying to drive that in spades and looking at performance management, driving metrics that really matter, tying performance and ratings and appraisals to those outcomes, and leveraging data and AI to underpin it all, so we can have access to all the authoritative data. We can make data-driven decisions, drive decision and information advantage that way. So bottom line is absolutely value proposition and that return on investment and looking that in every decision at all echelons, from the strategic to the operational to the tactical, is fundamentally important.
Well, Joe, speaking of metrics, how do you measure success? What's the end supposed to look like?
I think with digital transformations, there's a lot of things, and I think General Olson hit on a number of them, but it's improving services, both for your customers and your internal users. But you also want to look at cybersecurity and really that value. How are you impacting the mission? How are you changing the mission? And those are the primary measures of success. But you also want speed. I mean, I can't emphasize speed enough. You've got to deliver, I think, on a monthly basis. Our adversaries are moving fast. We've got to move faster.
And General, how does enhancing the enterprise's digital capabilities help with recruiting that digital warfighter that Space Force is looking for?
Well, it's essential. Frankly, as we look at the digital natives in the current generation, and we look at the exciting, challenging, and compelling missions that we have wicked hard problems. And the best and brightest love working on things that add true value and have a mission and a purpose. We want to harness that. But of course, we got to have the systems that enable and propel that. So we got to attract, then we have to retain, and certainly we also look at with our personnel systems, we look at the total force element, Guard and Reserve. are integral parts of the active duty plus the civilian and the contractor. And then we look at the industry and the international partners and allies side. So to link all of that together requires a digital interoperability, a digital interconnectedness. And that goes far beyond communication. It goes to the data. It goes to the tool sets with AI, ML, DL for artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. So it's really a multi-pronged approach, but it's absolutely essential to, again, taking care and enabling people, which is our very most important asset.
Well, the Guardian Ideal lays out that strategic vision for talent management. Expand a little bit on that vision.
Well, thanks. You know, we're really excited about the Guardian Ideal. I think that embodies the four primary principles of the United States Space Force. You know, it's character, courage, commitment, and connection. And so, you know, each of those it has deep meaning, and yet it's also an essential part of the type of person, the type of team, the type of culture that we're trying to create. So as we move forward on those connection, that digital interconnectivity is so vitally important. But we want to also underpin that with a sense of courage and a sense of drive, a sense of boldness, because we do have a contested environment in space. We do have challenging geostrategic and geopolitical environments. And so it's going to take that kind of commitment to core values, that commitment to those Guardian Ideals to be our North Star as we drive forward. And it's a daily cadence of continued in increasing velocity and challenge, but that's really compelling, and we want to keep it that way.
And Joe, what are some of your recommendations for the Space Force when it comes to enhancing their talent management systems?
I think the General hit on a lot of things that are attractive, but it's very competitive right now for individuals that have talent and skills in AI. I think the other thing about it is a lot of universities right now, and I think the Space Force needs to partner with academia, with industry, but data science is a key piece, I think, of supporting AI. You can't do AI without high quality data for training, for testing, so on. And a lot of universities now are establishing very robust data science programs. And I would encourage the Space Force to look at partnering with some of those universities.
Well, that's a beautiful tip and cue, Mimi, if I may. We have the Space Force University Partnership Program, the UPP, and we've got a tranche of initial schools spread out across the United States. And what we found is this is an incredible opportunity to partner, both to serve as a pipeline of content and qualified, brilliant folks into the Space Force, but us to also harness them in collaborative research and development, ideas to explore, taking a diverse set of input. So we find extraordinarily big value in this. I'm currently the University Partnership Program General Officer Champion for the University of Colorado at Boulder. So we have a huge contingent of Space Force Guardians in Colorado, both in Colorado Springs and Denver at Buckley. And of course, we've got the Air Force Academy there. And as we look at the ecosystem there, this has been a phenomenal opportunity, but it also includes the chance to engage early and often, and we find that we look to expand that. We're leveraging historically black colleges and universities. We're leveraging other important demographics that we want to bring in and be part of this rich, vibrant, diverse ecosystem within the Space Force, because every single Guardian counts. We're a very small and lean service by design that's intrinsically and structurally part of the game plan. So.
Joe, wrap things up for us. What are your final thoughts?
I think you can't underestimate the importance of data. I would have a robust data management plan addressing all life cycles of data. I think thinking about a converged experience for everyone in the Space Force, how they're going to operate, because again, they're going to operate at different speeds than, say, the other services. And they're going to have everything's got to be converged, integrated, highly automated. And those are some of the big takeaways I would emphasize going forward.
All right, Joe, thank you for being on the program. General, stand by. We're going to continue after the break.
Great.
Thank you.
Fed Modernization Space is sponsored by KPMG. Learn more at read.kpmg.us/modgov. Fed Modernization Space is sponsored by MFGS Inc. Learn more at mfgsinc.com/solutions/hybrid-IT-management.
Up next, it's said that data is the new ammunition. And in the military space domain, there's a lot of it. Data must be protected and used effectively. In this segment, we'll explore the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning in enabling the digital warfighter and delivering decision dominance. I'm back with Major General John Olson, Mobilization Assistant to the Chief of Space Operations for the U.S. Space Force and Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer for the Department of the Air Force. Joining us is Chuck Boyers, DoD Director at MFGS Inc. Welcome back, General. Welcome, Chuck, to the program. General, you're the Department of the Air Force's first Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer. Why the creation of that role, and what do you see as your mission?
Well, thank you. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to lead such a great group of talented and dedicated folks in our Department of the Air Force Chief Data and AI Office. And, you know, we stood this up this year with 1 January being the start. Last fall, we put artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning in with data because it's so fundamentally linked. As we know, 80 to 85% of AI ML readiness is really driven by data wrangling and mungling, you know, cleansing, formatting, metadata tagging, provenance and data integrity validation. So all of that is fundamentally tied and linked. And so this is about the Department of the Air Force getting very focused and serious in looking at data analytics and AI ML readiness. And we set our North Star as operationalization of data and AI ML readiness. And I think that's really important. We're doing that for 3 primary reasons. Number 1, to increase business enterprise efficiency. Number 2, to drive mission operations capability. And number 3, to increase warfighting capacity. And that covers the entire waterfront for the Department of the Air Force.
Well, let's talk about operationalizing that data, because there's an enormous amount of data that's collected for the department and the military space domain specifically. So what are the current challenges in operationalizing that data so that it is useful to the warfighter?
Well, I think you said it right on the dot, and that is making sure that our operators at all echelons have access to the authoritative data at the speed of need. So timely, authoritative data access. And that is much easier said than done. When we look at data at rest, data in motion, structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured, when we talk all the way from the airborne edge or the space edge nodes all the way to the central core, this is really a tough, challenging environment. Additionally, as we look at both the Air and the Space Force, we have a lot of legacy systems that, if you've had mission and money, you've oftentimes created independent on-premises solutions that have been viable, but that doesn't allow us to integrate this. And so we've driven towards the DAF data fabric, the Department of the Air Force data fabric, with 6 big data platforms, but that's really part of the broad interoperability, interconnected approach that we're taking to harness the power of our data and turn that into not just data, because it's useless by itself. It's got to be data-driven decisions and decision advantage and information advantage as the outcomes.
So Chuck, what are those data management issues that, from your perspective, Space Force and the department needs to be aware of to ensure that it's properly utilized and that it advantages the warfighter?
Yeah, it starts with understanding the data, as General Olson said. You know, it's complex. There's there's structured, and there's unstructured data, and it goes across a lot of different formats, right? They're gathering information from radars and sensors, satellites. It's coming from everywhere. It's a lot. So to be able to effectively tag that information, and especially in instances with structured data, go beyond the metadata to understand the bits and the bytes of it, what's in there, look at audio, video. It really requires smart technology, AI information, to be able to initially understand what the data is so that they can classify it and they can point it in the right direction and get it to the warfighter and the mission.
And that management includes the life cycle of that data. Explain that.
Yeah, the life cycle is very complex too. I mean, to me, the life cycle is everything from understanding the data to securing the data to delivering it to the warfighter. A lot of aspects on that, especially from the security side. but it's a very complex thing, and I think it's very fitting that General Olson has AI within his title, because you can't do one without the other in this day and age.
Well, speaking of which, General, AI is at the core of decision and information advantage, but it's only as good as the data that's used to train it. So how do you ensure that that data is good data and it's trustworthy?
You're absolutely right. That is fundamentally important. And I also, as we look at that centrality or criticality of data, we must adopt a DevSecOps mindset as well. Security can't be bolted on here as well. So we look at it's really DevSecOps for AI as well. When we look at that training data, it's very important to safeguard, to ensure that we have high quality, unbiased data. Looking at the cleansing of that data, looking at the data integrity verification and validation. And that's part of our broader effort called responsible AI. And responsible AI, we really like to say, has 5 primary tenets. And it's responsible, ethical, traceable, reliable, and governable. And each one of those is pretty potent in its meaning and impact, yet all of those are what it takes to move and operate at the speed of need, leveraging data from all these multivariate sources in a contested environment across all the domains, and having that interoperability with our joint services, international partners, and allies. So this is the wicked hard challenge, and it's also a fundamental reason why I really like to talk about the 3 R's of AI. And that's, of course, first, responsible AI. But we also need robust AI and resilient AI, because without those, in the national security, the integrated deterrence, the defense mindset, and the warfighting posture that we must be in digitally to lead and compete and win, it's absolutely essential that we bring all those 3 R's to bear. And I think as we focus on that, that's kind of our North Star as we drive towards the operationalization of data and AI/ML readiness.
Chuck, give me an example. So we're talking, kind of theories here and principles, which are really important, but I want to hear an actual use case of how AI can be used better to enable the Space Force mission.
Yeah, I'll approach it from a security aspect. You touched on data at rest, data in transit, and data in use. And then going beyond that to really complete a zero trust architecture. Everything at its core is protecting the data. AI needs to be core to monitoring people and devices and how they are accessing that data to keep it safe, right? So you can utilize AI to monitor behaviors, create baselines of normal behavior, and then look for fluctuations and anomalies to be able to go, okay, well, that data and that user or that device is acting out of context now. Let's scale back access rights and let's protect that data. And you can automate that, or you can just do it by alerts and proactively being able to use AI to monitor the access to the data, I think, is one area.
And I'd just like to foot stomp something you said, Chuck, and that is, as we look at zero trust and ICAM, those are fundamental, essential elements of our broader embrace of data and AI/ML readiness, because that allows us to have the right level of security, the right level of access at the data and user level. And so that's vital in a joint service environment, even more important when we talk about our international partners and allies, and also bringing industry and academia and our institutional capabilities and competencies to bear. So I think that's fundamentally important, a really great point. DevSecOps approach to both cyber and AI, but zero trust and ICAM underpinning it. And of course, we need to recover from some of our deep technical debt, and that means driving modernization and adding fidelity to our enterprise IT systems, and it's about developing a culture of security. Because we know it's football season. You only win Super Bowls, you only win the big games with both offense and defense.
And General, following on that, in other venues you've talked about the waterfall approach, which just doesn't work. First, explain what that is, and what's the better approach?
Sure. Waterfall, as many say, waterfall is dead because it's just not reactive and responsive enough. That's where you build and you integrate and you have successive next efforts after each one is complete. Now we need much more of a Scrum or a spiral or a min-viable product operational approach. And that's really what the Secretary of the Air Force and our chiefs both Chief Brown as the Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the Chief of Space Operations, General Raymond, are driving us towards those min-viable operational capabilities. And that's how we're going to support the Secretary of the Air Force's operational imperatives, the OIs, that are so important to preparing to compete and win in a high-end, near-peer, challenging or contested environment. And so that is all about speed, right? And it's speed and it's accuracy, but we're going to learn a lot along the way. And so we're leveraging those software, those industry best practices to move. And so I think that's a big part of what I hope to continue to bring and imbue, bringing that industry, bringing that other agency perspective into the Space Force, into the Department of the Air Force, because together it's a cooperate and graduate. It's a team sport environment, and so we need to do that. And really, industry is our secret here. Leveraging the diversity, the entrepreneurial capacity, the innovative strength of our U.S. and partner and allied industrial bases, with a strong sense of unity, command, and unity of effort. That's how we're going to bring it all together.
And Chuck, turning to you, since you are our industry representative, your perspective on that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's very imperative on industry to integrate with the tool sets that the DoD wants to use. We've been fortunate to work with a lot of the Platform One software factories and talk to them over the past few years since their inception and understand what tool sets are they using so that we can provide automation throughout that CID pipeline. And another key initiative is to shift security left, right? So that the security of the code starts at the developer. They're providing tools so that as they're writing the code, they're getting almost a spell check of how the code looks, and they can make quick adjustments. We're also aligning from an architecture and even a licensing perspective so that security happens early and often throughout the pipeline, so that it's not an end result of a security scan. It's being done throughout, and that helps for agility and faster delivery.
General, can you give me your future vision for data and AI, how it can be operationalized to increase warfighting, not only capability, but capacity?
Absolutely. Our North Star from the beginning has been operationalization of data and AI ML readiness. And what that really means is driving, again, towards that business enterprise efficiency, mission operations capability, and warfighting capacity. That means bringing the tools, bringing the training, bringing the capabilities, and allowing the authorities and the responsibility and accountability to all be aligned properly. So our airmen and guardian at echelon, all the way down from the highest to the lowest levels, are enabled and empowered. We're giving also the tools to measure our performance, to drive much more specific outcomes and look at the value proposition and the return on investment for those. I think as we bring that into much more of a holistic approach across the Department of the Air Force, that's going to lead us to where we need to be. We've got a lot more to do, but I've seen a vigorous embrace both from our senior leadership as well as our digital natives first coming into each of the services. And so it's an exciting opportunity ahead, and one which is going to be, again, a total team sport.
And Chuck, your final thoughts on this. You know, we talked about the use of data, the operationalizing of that data, AI and ML readiness, and really the role industry plays in supporting the Space Force and the Department of the Air Force as a whole. Yeah,
and it's, data is very key. It's a strategic asset for all of DoD, but especially for the Space Force, right? Digital modernization is something that's an ongoing effort, right? And it's up to industry to continue to support the DoD and their defense of our nation. And that comes with, providing integration, automation, and keeping up with technology and providing them things that can make these decisions quicker, faster, and deliver this information to the warfighter in a timely manner.
Yeah, and that's how we will get to decision and information advantage. And of course, that's the primary objective as part of the overall joint warfighting concept. And so that is our focus. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Federal Modernization Space, sponsored by KPMG and MFGS Inc. For more information on the subject matter we discussed today, go to govmatters.tv/FedMod. For the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network, I'm Mimi Geerges.